Welcome to another episode in the Think Digital Partners YouTube interview channel. Today, I'm delighted to say we have Paul Romer-Ormiston, who's the founder of Tillr, a UK tech company doing some interesting things that we're going to hear all about in a second. Our topic of the day is very fresh on the heels of the Prime Minister's change of direction about the move towards an end to at least the first stage of lockdown. And that's what we want to talk about with Paul today, and how his company is perhaps going to help local government in particular maybe get through this complicated situation successfully. So, Paul, do you want to tell us a little about yourself and your company, please?
Yes, hi Gary, thanks for having me. I'm the founder of Tillr, and we're a Crown commercial supplier to local government and some central government bodies. We do also work in the private sector, but for the purpose of today's discussion, I think we can focus squarely on local government, local authorities. So Tillr was founded in 2015. And within a couple of months of setting the business up, we already had some London Borough Councils as customers, and we're now up to a couple of dozen around the southeast of England, and some others a bit further afield. So what we tend to specialise in is the digitisation of processes.
Okay.
So anywhere within those organisations that they're not currently using technology to make them more efficient or to allow them to work remotely or out in the field. So we've got lots of case studies around various different departments and councils, sports and leisure, waste management, highways. The list is rather long. But what's interesting is that given the current situation, we're in quite a unique position where lots of councils have been contacting us in addition to their existing contractual requirements. About how we might be able to help them with the COVID-19 response and recovery.
Well, that's a good keyword, isn't it? Recovery, because got quite a complex sort of situation going on right now. We've got the Prime Minister's address last night. We've had him talking to the House Commons this afternoon. We've got imminently where he's talking again with the public. Quite a lot's going on. Quite a lot of information is coming through. Got any particular thoughts for us, Paul, about how to kind of, if I'm a local government leader, policymaker, trying to sort of make sense of all this, any particular guidance for us?
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, I think, again, just pointing back to the fact that we have for weeks been talking to councils all over the country about how they're preparing for a post-lockdown situation.
Okay.
And frankly speaking, I can't say anyone in my team at Tillr, nor most of the people we've been talking to, were particularly surprised by the ambiguity that was in last night's announcement. And that is purely because there is a largely held opinion that there are no experts in this situation. Most of us have never witnessed something like this in our lifetimes, certainly not in this country.
Right.
And as a result, what we're preparing for is a set of activities and courses of action to take that are unprecedented. So to think that the first time out of the trap that the advice and guidelines would be as accurate as one could hope for and expect is a bit ambitious, in our opinion. What we have done is talked at length in other publications and also to our existing customers about the fact that as the ambiguity is there and it will remain, and I feel that each announcement as it comes is going to have its own set of clarification requirements, the best thing that people can be doing is plan for the unexpected. So start putting things in place that allow you to react more quickly when the guidelines change. Expect that you will hear things at short notice. Expect that lockdown measures may flux, increase, decrease, depending on how the public responds to the guidelines that they're being given. And specifically for local authorities, the challenges they're going to have are keeping their constituents, their residents safe, and also supporting local businesses in reopening and getting that back underway to support the economy. But regrettably, to date, I think as a nation, we've shown ourselves to be a bit negligent when it comes to following the guidelines. Boris keeps talking about the fact that the vast majority have been observing them. But what we know is that the small minority that haven't are going to cause the problem if that continues. So we are here to advise and help councils as to how best to use their limited resources to monitor those situations and try and keep us on the road to recovery, as opposed to continually pushing us back into the buffers.
That's the top level conceptual framework we're working with, Paul. I think that's very well outlined. Your company has taken a practical step, and I believe you're producing or have produced some relevant software about this, your toolkit. Can you take us through that and what the kind of design philosophy of that is and how you think it might help us?
Yeah, sure, thank you. So essentially we have developed a post-lockdown recovery toolkit. At the moment it is aimed squarely at local authorities, but we're also developing one for police forces and ultimately the education sector as well, with the reopening of nurseries, schools and otherwise.
Okay.
So what that is a set of templates that can be used to actively monitor all of these new unprecedented activities which councils are going to be obliged to adhere to.
Okay.
So to give you some examples, social distancing, it's the term that 2 months ago no one had ever used and now it's all we ever hear about.
Indeed.
So ultimately, what does that mean for members of the public? But what does it mean for the councils that oversee the businesses that exist in their boroughs and of course their residents? So we should expect to see things like markings on the streets. We should expect to see guidelines in retail outlets, pubs and restaurants. Ultimately, it looks like that could be in July, assuming everyone sticks to the plan. So what we've developed are these templates that mean on a mobile device, council officers can be out on the streets in and around their borough and monitoring for that social distancing adherence. Okay. Additionally, we've got rules around what type of outlets are going to be allowed to reopen. Okay. And the guidelines are that they may only reopen if they follow specific steps which protect the employees and their patrons. So again, you can imagine every single establishment, every retail outlet on the high street, through to pubs, restaurants, cinemas, the layouts are different, the volume or capacity of those buildings is different. So there will not be a one-size-fits-all stipulation of how that works. So the councils are going to have a responsibility for making sure that commercial outlets are behaving responsibly, they're only reopening when they're allowed to, and that they've followed those guidelines. Again, from the toolkit perspective, it's just us presenting a checklist in a web format so that on that mobile device, they can be actively promoting and proactively, I should say, making sure that everyone is behaving as they should and trying to keep us with this flattened curve with an R of below 1.
How do I know that this advice is accurate and up to date and safe? I mean, I think it's a legitimate question.
Absolutely. And to be frank, we wouldn't be anywhere near the market with this if we didn't put a lot of due diligence into that ourselves. What we can say is we have consulted with and actually have stakeholders sitting on the design committee for this toolkit from local authorities themselves.
Okay.
In the case of London, we've been talking to the Mayor of London's office and the Greater London Authority. And of course, we've got the daily briefings coming out of Westminster, which, because of the nature of our platform, something I didn't mention previously, is that it is designed to be highly configurable and responsive. So we say that if an announcement is made at 5 p.m. by the government, the next working day, our system will reflect the latest guidelines. Excellent. So the whole point is that we don't know what the next announcement is going to be. No one knew what the Prime Minister's announcement yesterday would be until the Sunday papers gave us a bit of a sneak preview, and then at 7 p.m. he delivered the message. Turns out most people didn't understand it, so he had to re-deliver it at 3:30 this afternoon. But there is some clarity around that now. Of course there are going to be questions and there are people worried about very specific situations, but we guarantee that as the message changes, as the guidelines change, and as this whole recovery process progresses, the system will be updated to reflect the very latest guidelines from Whitehall.
Is the toolkit available now? How would I find out more about it? And is it something, perhaps do I have to buy it? Do I have to, can I trial it? What's the practicalities of getting on board with you?
Okay, so what we have done is for all of our existing council customers, we've made it available to them already, and we're using that as a way of basically getting some feedback and making sure that it actually works and is a helpful tool as opposed to a hindrance. The thing to do is firstly go to our website, that is tillr.io, and Tillr is spelled Tillr.
Thank you.
Right there on the homepage, there's a big banner at the top talking about our COVID-19 Recovery Toolkit.
Right.
Click on that, have a read. There's a 2-page PDF that'll give you some more details about the type of content we've got in there that you can download. But crucially, I suppose, it is actually about which councils can respond quickly enough to make this product useful for them. And given that yesterday's announcement included some references to some guidelines that will be published tomorrow and the day after, particularly around making workplaces safe, we will take that and add it into the toolkit as we go. So to your point around, is the toolkit ready? The answer is yes, but it is constantly evolving in line with the messaging. There will be a cost associated with it, but at the moment we're actually looking to generate interest and work out whether or not we've got this thing right. So go to the website, have a read, get in touch with us, email or phone, and we'll talk you through our plan for that.
Sounds interesting. And then the content, the notes at the bottom of the screen, you'll find links to kind of take that forward. And on the thinkdigitalpartners.com editorial website, we also will have some supporting collateral here. So thanks for that, Paul. I'm going to close by asking you an unanswerable question, but it's one we've been asking everyone in the series so far. You think about the future a lot. You think very much about the practicalities of dealing with the pandemic. Here's a question. Do we go back to the new normal or the old normal, or is everything going to change, Paul? What's the story?
Yeah, great question. Can't say it's the first time I've had this conversation over the last few weeks. It seems to be a popular conversation, but I guess if I take my Tillr hat off for a minute and just talk about the fact that I have spoken to a lot of people who are very close to this situation, as have many of my team. Right. So we've developed probably a slightly more informed opinion, I suppose. I don't want to say it's right, but we're hearing from lots of different sources at different levels of the situation about the planning for this. I can't see at all that whatever we used to think old normal was will return. I don't say that negatively. I say that with huge positivity, actually. I've been absolutely amazed at the speed at which people have embraced things like video calls and remote working and working from home. We've seen some serious success stories from people not profiteering because of the situation, but using their best creativity and innovation to develop solutions that help tackle the problem. Mm-hmm. Of course, there have been businesses and industries in particular that are suffering very badly from this. So something else I've talked about at length is the fact that whilst the pandemic, the virus, the health implications are tragic in many cases, it's the economic impact that has really got people running for the hills at the moment, because there is so little understanding of what the real impact of all this will be over the next 6, 12, 24 months. Okay. People are talking about huge recessions on their way, things like that. I feel the new normal will see the survival of businesses that were able to adapt to the new landscape. Okay. That's not going to be possible in every industry, and that is regrettable. But I do feel that this bounce back term that's being bandied around does have some merit, because I've seen a lot of evidence of people displaying the will to adapt and move forward with this.
A note of optimism.
Yeah, indeed. I have to say, I can't speak for everyone, and I actually know personally some business owners that are potentially even going to lose their businesses during this trouble, and that is very regrettable. But I think in terms of a road to recovery, I do have the opinion that the new normal is not necessarily going to be that bad.
I can't think of a better place to stop our conversation, and I hope our readers will engage with the website, find out more about your toolkit. Certainly, you seem to be at the heart of the important issues of the moment, Paul. So thank you very much for taking the time today. Appreciate it, and good luck with the project.
Thank you, Gary. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Take care.